Panda.
Well, this is awkward. Hello, my name is Exodus, and I am here back on my little panda version, the corner of the internet. It's been, I think, about almost 2 months, going on 2 months, since I've done a whole lot of content on any platform, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, or anywhere else. And streaming has been at a temporary halt. As you can imagine, it is life related because that's usually what happens as content creators, especially with so many big time content creators literally shutting down and saying we're done because, they're exhausted. But that's not my specific case, but it happens. Anyway, I'm back and I'm hoping to once again get back in the fold of things of just, what I've been doing, just enjoying the Twitch streaming, or well, I say Twitch streaming, but the YouTube streaming, going eventually back on Twitch because all platforms are terrible, so I can't really condone the use of one or the other if they're all equally bad. Also trying to get back into making non-live content, like the whole ordeal. But the main reason that I had stopped making content creation for a bit was twofold. One, my work-life balance wasn't very balanced and it was just a lot of work. It's stressful. It's customer facing during the holidays. Humans enjoy watching the misery of other humans. And those of us that work in customer facing positions can tell you, especially retail, can tell you full well that empathy is one of those things that is just simply not afforded to folks like us. We are NPCs and they are the protagonist in a Bethesda game. They'll either talk to us or blow us up for the shiggles. There's no in between. So when you throw that in there and then you throw in the thing that I had started on a whim, but it became something bigger, and I thought for a moment there, but as you can already imagine, did not pan out. And that's what this video is about, just my quick little journey with that. So a couple of months ago, I had posted on Blue Sky, and I think I also cross-posted it on Twitter, but I don't remember. I posted on Blue Sky for sure that I had put in an offer on a condo. Now, how that even happened, I live in an apartment. Renting, as 90% of America knows, sucks. Our wages aren't going up. Rent is. Rent right now, if it wasn't for the fact that I live with my fiance and he pays, his share just as the same way that I pay my share, I would not be able to afford to live in this 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartment. We're not talking about anything huge or like fancy or anything. I'm not in the worst of neighborhoods, but I'm not in my pinky extended, like flower people cul-de-sac neighborhood either. Just a basic apartment. And I cannot afford it on my own. I just simply cannot. I mean, between my fiance and I, we make it work, but we're not exactly splurging either. I'm talking about, as a partial disclosure, my for this 1 bedroom, 1 bath is basically $1,500 a month, which is a lot of cash, a lot. And this is true for a lot of folks. And I'm sure there's those of you out there that are paying way more than I am at for probably like a studio. Like I was looking at apartments over in Florida where I was born. Yeah, Florida crazy. And I'm talking about like 1,500 is literally for like a shoe in a box in someone's backyard. So a 1 bed, 1 bath is not bad for 1,500, but why rent should not be the price of mortgage, but I digress. So for the shiggles, I figured, hey, I've been working on my credit for literally 8-9 years now, and I feel like I'm still not like no plus 800 like like John Smith kind of a dude, but I'm at least somewhere where I'm like, all right, cool, I should get something, right? So I figured, let me try to get pre-qualified for a mortgage, see what happens. I'm expecting them to say, yeah, no, we'll never lend to you. But I did get pre-qualified. Not for a whole lot in this house market, and I need to like emphasize that. Not for a whole lot in this housing market. So what I got pre-qualified for was for like about 196K, give or take, something like that. Which, yeah, that is more money than I've ever had in one go. That's the problem. There's nothing in my life that I would ever purchase for that amount in one go. And that actually remained true, unfortunately. But it, if we were talking about like maybe pre-COVID times or pre-Airbnb times, 196K would have gotten me a really nice townhouse, like something like, something nice, something cozy. In today's market, every single place that I was looking at was just above 196K, at like 200K even. And I'm here thinking, well, maybe, like I'll figure something out, but at least I'm looking. There was next to nothing in my general area and extended area that was really fitting that price point without it being a building that should have been condemned. I'm talking about every single, like every single little townhouse that I was looking at. There was one that like I was on, like, this is a true story. So my fiance and the realtor got to this one townhouse before I did, because I was literally trying to race there after work just to see if this is a viable thing. They were there 5 minutes. So by the time I got there, they were both outside. And in my mind, I'm here thinking, oh, they waited outside for me. Cool. No, they had already checked out that property and they basically said the carpet was rotted. I did not want details. I did not want to know what that meant. But imagine going through, I think we went through 8 or 9 different places we were checking out, and it was literally all just a nightmare. I'm talking about one had the bathroom cabinets that were also rotted and you could see it decaying, and the only thing keeping up the actual like area that you wash your hands in was just hope. Like, I'm not sure what was keeping the weight up, because the actual like, I don't know, bathroom cabinet material thing was like standing essentially. There was one where the tub was clearly clogged. Please don't ask for details. There was one that clearly needed pest control. There was one property that we were just like, oh my God, this location is great. It's so close to downtown because fiance loves the nightlife, right? I am this mess that you see before you. So not my big thing, but if it makes him happy, then I am good. So great spot. We get there and the realtor said, no bank is going to furnish this because the windows are broken. The windows were made out of like cheap plastic, and the cheap plastic was broken. So essentially it was like a breath away from being like condemned or considered a fixer-upper, i.e. someone with more money than they should have and continued to be the landlord cancer of the US. That's a property for them to buy it with their surplus of cash, furnish it, and then rent it out for the crazy amounts that we are all suffering today. Fast forward, it is basically the last day of my pre-qualified. Essentially, after today, I have to go through the whole process all over again and see what I get pre-qualified for. And it was close to the end of the year also, so there's this whole program, which is especially for like FHA loans, for those of you aiming to get a home, to essentially like first-time home buyers, where there's a certain amount of credit that you get so that you don't have to put as much down in the beginning. Because again, poor. I'm not exactly, Bill Gates over here. So we go through like 5 properties in a night. and we found one condo that actually looked like a human being can live there. And it looked nice and it looked pretty. And it was, as I mentioned before, like I got pre-approved for like 196. This was 160. So it can compensate, because here's the other thing that I found out. Even though you're pre-approved for XYZ amount, that pre-approval amount drops depending on how much you have to pay to the enemy of the story, the HOA. So in this particular property, the HOA fee is $244 a month, but it didn't bring down my pre-approval down too low as to give me the ability to go through the process. And this is when my hell began. So, full disclosure, for those of you getting into a mortgage for the first time, they're going to ask you for a lot of things. They'll ask you for pay stubs. They'll ask you for bank statements, all the usual stuff. But depending on who your bank is, and I'm going to keep the bank I use anonymous for reasons I don't want to get into. But depending on the bank, they will ask you for a lot. The one that was doing my mortgage had the goal to first say, hey, you got this Zelle from this person here, my fiance. Can you write us a letter explaining it? I'm like, cool. So as it says on the statement, it's a Zelle from my fiance who gave me that money so that I can go ahead and pay for, like, help pay for the due diligence, which, by the way, due diligence is fancy talk for the seller just wants a little bit more cash to accept your offer. And this is money that in North Carolina, you don't get back. Put a pin on that one. I sent in that little letter that I signed that I had to sign and my fiance had to sign. And then they said, this letter isn't good enough. We need his bank statements now. Just open up with that. Anyway, so you go through all that nightmarish process, but that's not the part that made it a nightmare. The part that made it a nightmare is that the entire time that I'm submitting documents as they're being requested, and I'm told that I'm doing that really effectively and really quickly because, of course, I'm not a boomer, so I know how to upload a document on a website. I'm sure they're used to going through boomer hell, but those are the people they like because they have money. So I'm a trade-off. I'm a broke bitch, but at least I could submit the fact that I'm a broke bitch like quickly, right? So apparently we ran into our first hitch. And that what began the 2 to 3 week of me being antagonized by my realtor, because he was being antagonized by the listing agent, who is the person in charge of putting up the property for the seller. The HOA is supposed to have a certification for the FHA loans to basically be able to just, I guess, like say, sure, person with very little money, you can live here. And guess what? That certification I'm talking about? They let it lapse in 2011 and then just said, what do we need it for? So in began the battle of trying to get the HOA to do the certification. The entire time, my phone is getting blown up by text messages and phone calls by my realtor, basically saying the seller's threatening to terminate, the seller's threatening to do this, they're threatening to do that. They have other offers they can go for, like literally bullying me the entire time. One of those bully things was literally telling me that I need to switch the loan to a different type. Basically saying, stop using poor people loan, use normal people loan. Eventually, I cave and I do that. And to put it in perspective, that meant that instead of my closing costs and, and down payment and everything being like 1.5K, it jumps up to 10. But they put the fear of the fear of capitalism in me, because by the way, listing agents and realtors only get paid when the deal is actually closed. So they, it was commission that neither of them were making. I finally cave and I switch it, and everything's going fine. They asked me for a couple of more documentation because of course they would, and I submit it, lickety split. I actually had that because this has been like an 8-year thing of me trying to get to this point. So I actually did have the money saved up. I just didn't want to use everything that I've had saved up to do it. But if it meant that I no longer have to deal with rent, I was fine going down that road. The time finally comes. I scheduled the movers, which I still haven't canceled yet. And I need to actually call them to cancel. And I just haven't had the emotional fortitude to do so. We were scheduling also the pre-walk, and then the day that I would go to the lawyer's office to make the exchange like a legal drug deal. I get a text message from my loan officer saying that the mortgage declined. Would you like to know why it declined? It declined because in the HOA's bylaw, i.e., the HOA put this rule for themselves. They put in their bylaws that the roof needs to be maintained because it's a condo, so they're in charge of all the outside parts. Mind you, this is an HOA that you're supposed to pay $244 a month to. That every 10 years, the roof of the condos has to be maintained and redone. Guess what they didn't do? So they put that rule in themselves and then just didn't do it. So who knows what that roof looks like. And because of that, right at the last minute, literally a couple of days ago, as of me having the energy to make this video, the loan declined. Once the loan declined, the seller immediately terminated. There was no plan B. There was no pivot to maybe like a different lender that doesn't care about the HOA nor its bylaws. It was a done deal. The seller gets to keep that due diligence amount, which, it being a percentage of the loan, was because I forgot to mention this part. Like the condo was for 160, which, by the way, condo, I know I use that word, and for some folks, you might be thinking of like this like island getaway with a beach view or anything. Condo is just like an apartment with extra steps. I was going from a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment to a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo with roughly the same amount of square footage. So with the exception of and honestly, like the extra room is because there's less closet space, so it's almost like breaking even square footage wise. But the one benefit was that it would have been an actual property that I owned, and instead of me worried about the rent having to be renewed every year and it going up every year because my renewal is literally next month, that's my 60-day mark, I wouldn't have to worry about that. It would have been fine. It would have been like we would have been fine. I would have had a dedicated streaming space to make content and everything, which was like the biggest thing that I was looking forward to. And it declined because the HOA messed up. And I use the term messed up loosely. The HOA was just like purposefully negligent. And because of that, I am most likely, because I still need to, I'm going to weigh my options to see if there's any feasible way that I can maybe figure out, maybe find another property to try this with and go through the whole process from the beginning again. But I'm not even sure if I want to do that. But essentially what it boils down to is I am out 1,700. Oh, I forgot to say, yeah, because the property was weighed in for 160K, and to seal the deal, he was going to get, like, the seller was going to get an extra 10K on top of it. So the mortgage was actually for 170K. So that, so that the seller can just like fan himself with some extra cash, right? So that means 10% of that is giving him 1,700. Is it 10% or 1%? I can't math. I'm tired and emotionally drained. He got 1,700 as due diligence that he gets to keep. Plus, I had to spend another $450, I think it was, for a property inspection to see, like, what do we need, what should be fixed, so on and so forth. So basically, 8 years of saving, 2-ish going on 3 months of hunting for property, finding one, getting antagonized for 2 weeks. I guess the expectation the realtor had is for me to call my mortgage loan person and either write the loan myself or go full Karen, and I'm not that kind of person. Switching the loan, mentally accepting that I'm going to be shelling out 10 grand of, which is basically everything that I've got from just trying to save. And I say trying to save, but it's just my job. To full disclosure, not that I like, you put a little money away in your savings account. Oh, yuck. No, not necessarily. It's just I have a 401k that my job offered, and from the moment I got hired, after I from the moment I got off of my physical therapy and re-entered the workforce 8 something years ago, because I spent 3 years that I was on wheelchairs and the like. From that moment, I just said, like, yeah, sure, whatever, 401k me. And I pulled the money from the 401k to do this. So the tax amount was already taken out and everything. So actually, yeah, wait, because I requested so it's more than 2,200 that I lost, because the pull request was for like 15, and then they gave me, like, I think it was 12.3. So whatever the difference is, add to that. All of that, and at the end of it, like the Linkin Park song, in the end, it doesn't even matter, because I'm right where I'm at, right where I'm started. Like, if I haven't done a single thing, all of it's forgotten, all parties involved have moved on. It is quite the defeated feeling that I feel. And defeated is just putting it lightly. It's defeated, it's frustration, it's anger, it's depression. If you ever wanted to know why is it that it's so common of a meme of millennials can't get into housing or can't buy housing or can't afford housing, I'm a good example of a millennial that got really, really, really close and then basically got robbed for like about 4 grand and left right where he started. As you can imagine, this journey has made it very difficult to make any kind of content creation whatsoever. So with that said, I'm here again. I'm going to most likely have to renew, because I don't know how easily can I go through all of that again, or if I can even afford giving some other dude like whatever their due diligence is so that they can like feel better about themselves. I don't know, but the only silver lining that I can think of here, and everybody around me has been giving me their version of silver lining, and I get that everybody means well, and it's that whole entire psychology of you can't just allow someone to feel what they feel. You have to try to fix it, and it ends up making that person feeling either invalidated or defeated that much more. Like, the only silver lining that I can personally find in this is that, hey, at least I'm no longer getting bullied about what I should and shouldn't be doing as I wait for underwriters to very quietly decline my loan and not have to actually like face me afterwards. Not even have to have a conversation, no plan B, nothing. It's just, it's done and it's over with. So after I get over the funk that I'm in, I'm hoping to get right back in the swing of like content creation and everything, because at least that brought me a little bit of joy. But this is a slump that I know it's going to take me a bit to get out of. And there is no fix for it. To work this hard on something, to be bullied this hard on something, to lose this much sleep over it, to be this stressed out, to pay this much money when you don't have a lot of money to your name, comparatively, because of course I just mentioned that I'm sitting on like 10K that I pulled out of the 401k, and that alone is a privilege in its own making. Don't get it twisted. But in the grand scheme of things, it is just upper working class. But we're still working class. Middle class just doesn't exist. And if it does exist, I'm nowhere near it. Because prior to me pulling out of the 401k, you know what was inside of my savings account? $100. So there's that. Like, to get this far and just none of it mattered. None of it made an impact. None of it made a dent. The only person that can say they at least got something out of it is the seller who kept their due diligence. But they're still stuck with the property they're trying to get rid of. So wasn't exactly a fair deal for that person either. It's just my deal was rougher. But yeah, that is my update. That is the where, what, and why of my whereabouts. And I guess 2024 starting out really crappy for me specifically. We'll see how the rest of the year goes. And who knows, maybe I'll do this stupid little dance again at the end of this year when I'm once again trying to time me getting out of the rent with the renewal of the rent so that I don't have to pay as much money to break the lease. Because again, but yeah, if y'all made it this far, like, and y'all, I mean, like, I don't know, one, maybe two people. Cool. Thanks. You're awesome. Love you. Typical stuff that you say at one of the end of these videos. Please like and subscribe. It'd be wonderful if you did. I'd appreciate it. It'd be at least an actual silver lining versus the ones that I'm being told of, so that the person seeing me in emotional pain no longer has to see me that way because it bothers them. Anyway, thank you all so much, and see you soon.